This video's gonna contain spoilers from the off, so I'm warning you now. Another From episode, another death. Well, that seems to be the pattern that we're gonna have to get used to. Dale met his demise in a way that I couldn't have ever imagined after he went through the hole in the tree, and just like at the end of the previous episode, the town was left in shock. With an episode that didn't pack much punch, but was probably more like a sparring session. It followed on from the events of episode 4 and was more so focused on the division that was forming, the different mindsets that people were adopting, and how it was impacting Boyd specifically with the control that he was starting to lose. So with that, let's jump into the episode and break down all that there was to take away from it. Here is from Season 3 Episode 5, Ending Explained. How this episode will impact Boyd. Boyd is the figurehead of the town, and he always leads with what he believes is the best for the people at the front of his mind. This was made most apparent in this episode with the meeting that was being held in the diner for the townspeople to address what was going on following Randall being left alive by the creatures, Tabby returning, and Nikki being killed. With Tabitha coming back, there were a ton of questions that everybody had, and we saw that there was a sense of frustration over the fact that she didn't reach out for help when she was in Maine. Dale, Fatima, Ellis, and other residents were getting frustrated at the fact that Boyd was suggesting that they didn't go and look for the tree that Tabitha went through. This was because it was technically the only way out that everybody knew about, and Boyd was restricting that. Boyd's methods of running the town were being questioned, and he was actually getting undermined by the people, something that he's not faced on this scale before. The fact that he left Randall out to die in the previous episode, and the line, "You did this, you left me out there," being spoken by Randall as he laid there bleeding. It was something that probably struck people and put doubt in their mind on if Boyd would do the same to them. The townspeople are getting to the point where it feels like they don't want to be governed, and they want to be able to make their own decisions about what it is that's best for them and on a personal level. Otherwise, they feel like they're going to be stuck there forever. The line in episode 1 of this season that the creature said to Boyd about how he said that the town wasn't going to break him is the very thing that has stuck with me throughout the 5 episodes so far. The whole reason Randall was left alive was to cause division and for Boyd to look at a consequence of what happened when he made a deadly decision. People are being killed on his watch and are being harmed because the creatures are wanting to make him suffer. It's as if everybody else is a pawn in the game, and with their death, their aim is to chip away at Boyd and hope that he gets one step closer to losing the plot. With him losing the trust of the people, that's another way that the creatures are manipulating the town indirectly. They're not even needing to arrive and cause chaos. They just need to do something that'll cause people to turn, and then during the daytime when they're not there, then their work carries on in the background. They're just getting smarter. In the closing section of the episode, we saw that Dale ended up in between the concrete and the pool after going through the tree. Let's be real, Dale was never finding somewhere safe after going through that tree. He was an ass, and when do they ever get happy endings in TV shows? They don't. When Boyd was looking at Dale and trying to figure out a way to get him out of there, we saw his face change as he realized that he wasn't going to be getting him out of the pool. But the only way that Boyd felt he could stop this was to put him out of his misery and shoot him. This was something that was quite striking, and I think is going to sit with the townspeople. Boyd was essentially playing God in that moment and decided that he was going to kill somebody. But what I thought was interesting was that Dale died before Boyd could even fire the weapon. However, the gun was left in Boyd's hand and everybody saw what he was about to do. I think this is going to be something that will cause division even more and will make them question his leadership approach. What gives Boyd the right to make all of those decisions, especially one that will take somebody's life? Division is coming, hope is dwindling, and the very thing that made the town strong, togetherness, is about to get ripped apart. I feel like all of Boyd's decisions have made the townspeople go against him recently, and it's going to end up at a point where he's on his own or has very little support. Dale could be the final nail in the coffin, or the beginning of the end of Boyd's time as leader. Victor and his father. Victor and Henry were finally reunited in this episode, and what a moment it was. It was actually quite an emotional one. Victor and Sarah were planning on finding Jasper in the tunnels, but their quest took a sidetrack when they went to get supplies, and this was where Victor found out through Donna that his father was in the town. What was interesting about both Victor and Henry was that there was a sense of guilt that was present within both of them. Victor didn't want to see his father because he felt guilty over the fact that he never drew his father in any of the pictures when he was younger, and he didn't want it to be seen as though he forgot about him. And then on the flip side, Henry felt guilty because he gave up hope on finding his family after they went missing, and he just accepted the likelihood that they were dead, rather than out there somewhere. The idea of Victor being there all alone was an image that upset Henry, so guilt was at the forefront for the both of them. Even when Victor and Henry embraced for the first time, Victor said the line repeatedly, "I didn't know how to get home," as he cried into his father's shoulder. This was actually a really emotional moment, and it took me by surprise. Victor's arc took a back seat in this episode in order for the reunion to occur, but I imagine with Victor's mindset probably being in a more stable condition in the next episode, himself and Sarah, and I reckon maybe even Henry, will go and look for Jasper and hope to find out what's on the horizon for the town, and if it's going to mirror that fateful night which occurred where the townspeople were slaughtered several years ago. I think it'll make sense for Henry to go too, because he'll probably get to find out what happened to his wife and daughter through Jasper retelling the events. What's going to happen with Randall? As I mentioned when I was discussing Boyd, division is on the horizon for the town, and personally, I think Randall would be the individual that leads that division and causes friction within the town and for people to change their mind and turn. Randall solely blames Boyd for what happened to him where he was left to the creatures, and to be honest, I don't actually blame Randall. He was left for dead and wasn't seen as a priority, so that's going to sit within his mind. I reckon with that, Randall's frustration and newfound hatred for Boyd, paired with the fact that the mood of the town is naturally turning anyway, Randall will be at the heart in causing a new side to be formed. In episode 2 of the show, Donna said that togetherness and hope were the most valuable things in the town, and that was even after she found out that the cattle were let loose and they could have lost food. Togetherness and hope are the two things that are starting to fade away, and if it does go, then that will leave the town in a very hostile condition. The creatures will no longer be the sole enemy, but each other will be too. There was a line that contrasted that in this episode, which was, "Hope is the thing that makes people suffer." So we're going to be seeing a town without hope, but I wonder if it will be in any worse of a condition. Personally, I think it will be, because without hope, then what are they all living for? Tabby and Jade. With Tabitha returning in this episode, it meant that Jade went straight to her with the hopes of finding the hole in the tree which could lead them out of Fromsville. Jade is plagued by the hallucinations that he keeps having and the fever dreams, which all seem to be ways of the town showing him things, but he can't piece it together. He said it all looks like chaos until you see the pattern, and the pattern is the very thing that he's been searching for. The slips of paper in the bottles on the tree had 4 numbers in, and he believed that they were dates. It's not a bad theory, to be fair. If that is the case, then one of the numbers ended in 59, which could insinuate that the town has been trapping people there for a long while. If we think back to the paintings that Miranda did, and also the hallucination of the person that Jade saw when he was in the forest, they were all from different time periods. So maybe it could be a collection of when people arrived there, or even when they tried to escape. Tabby was being blamed for not seeking help in this episode and was getting judged by the people, but I'm with Tabby on this one. My review of the episode. I thought this was an okay episode of the show. It wasn't really the most exciting though. I wouldn't call it a filler episode, but it was one that was mainly focused on the consequences of the actions from the episode before, so it was a needed one. It felt like an episode that was predominantly focused on Boyd and the fact that everything was now starting to go against him. The fact that his son and Fatima were even going against him too. It showed that if he's not even got the support of them, then how's he going to garner support of others? There wasn't much focus on Kenny and the forest, but there was an important detail. The fact that Kenny said that there was something different out there and that he'd heard it both times he'd been there. It planted the idea that something dark and sinister was on the horizon. I'm really intrigued to see what's out there and how it's going to connect to the wider story. I thought this section with Julie and Elgin was interesting. Learning that she was still hearing the screaming and that it was impacting her in multiple different ways, but she'd been keeping it to herself, showed that she's going to be embarking on a darker arc. I also thought the fact that they found a camera, it's going to be something important to the story. I wonder if it's almost going to be able to be used to capture what Elgin sees. I don't think it would have been shown to us otherwise. We've now hit the halfway point of the season, and I think it's shaping up to be a really good one. We've not had many answers, granted, but I'm hoping as we're now in the second half, we're going to start getting some. Whether that be about the boy in white, the creature's origins, everything that's going on with Jade, Julie's visions, Elgin's visions, Victor and the night in question, why Jim's receiving the phone call from somebody claiming to be Thomas, and Fatima, and the fact that she might be turning. Wow, they've actually got a lot to answer for. Let's hope we get some clarity soon. So, there you have it, from Season 3 Episode 5, Ending Explained. If you want to see more videos on Season 3 of From, then click on the card in the top corner. There's an entire playlist there where I break down every episode. Or alternatively, you can head over to my channel where you'll find them all. And finally, if you'd like to see what I rate the latest movies that don't quite make the cut to getting a dedicated video, then head over to my Letterboxd profile. It's where I rate the latest releases in real time. What did you think of this week's episode? Drop your thoughts in the comments. As always, thanks for tuning into the video and I'll see you in the next one.